What is that right there?
Oh my god, man. I cannot believe this.
What up, fam? Thanks for joining me for part 3 of this between me and the trailer home of Maxwell's Unearthly. Once again, thanks for joining me for part 3. And this part 3 of the segment is going to tie in everything that we've talked about to finally conclude that weird paranormal experience that I had. So, as you may know, in part 2, I left off as I had this really weird nightmare that I told everybody. And we all seem to pretty much confirm that we were all feeling the same way about me not traveling the next day. So what had happened that day was, I went out with the girl that I met online. We had a great day with her and her sister once again, and we seemed to have a great day. And it was getting kind of late. We didn't want to kind of leave because we were having such a great time. But at the same time, we were all in unison that I should not leave, but yet we could all agree that it was time to wrap it up. It was getting late. And we all still kind of felt like the vibe was, hey, why don't you stick around a little longer just to make sure things are okay. So we weren't sure why exactly we had that vibe. I mean, obviously, I felt like we should stick around. Or that I should stick around because I had that weird nightmare. But, at the same time, it was kind of like, well, if I don't jump on my flight, I'm going to end up paying like $100 extra. So it was kind of like a in-between. I wanted to make sure that everyone's going to be okay and that they were going to be okay. And that, I wanted to make sure that everybody was in their home, in their bed, so that I can travel safely the next day. And I could feel good about it. So, the real scary part now begins. It was like, I want to say in between 11:30 and 1 o'clock in the morning, around that time. If you have ever traveled from Murfreesboro, Tennessee to Lebanon, you'll know that you have to take a lot of different highways out there. Now, I can't tell you which highways right now, but some of the highways that are out there are pretty dark. They're pretty barren. They have no lights out there. Back in 2001 maybe, 2002, things were kind of dark out there. Really pitch dark, actually. Let me not just shade over it. They're really dark. And like I said, if you've ever been out there, I spent 5 years 5 years of my life out there. And just to give you a quick insight, whenever I was driving out there in these pitch black areas, in these highways that had no lights, you could literally turn off your lights. I did that once. If you ever got stuck out there, believe me, you are in complete darkness. Complete darkness. So we started to make our return back to where I stayed the night in the trailer home. from from Murfreesboro to Lebanon, it's quite a ways. You're probably looking at a 30 to 40 minute drive just going. So we're going, I've got the girlfriend in the back. I'm in the back hanging out. The sister was more than gracious to, drive for us. And everything's fine. We're having a good time. And then once we turn off into Lebanon to that highway that I was telling you about, it's a pretty pitch black highway. And believe it or not, it was a really short weekend, but what I'm getting to is that, we made a wrong turn. So we were supposed to take a left, but we took a right on this pitch black highway to turn on the street that was supposed to take me back home, but we turned right. We still didn't quite know our way, and back in 2002, cell phones didn't exactly have navigational directions like they do today, like smartphones. Back in the day, there goes an ambulance. Sorry about that. Back in the day, they didn't have GPS and map applications to tell you where to go. You were basically either going off directions, you had a map, or that's pretty much it, or you memorized it. So we turned right, and we didn't know at this point that we made a wrong turn. And these streets that you navigate into, these back roads in Tennessee, you had to go 25 to 35 miles an hour, right? Regular stuff. So a couple minutes, maybe a minute or two into this back road, we were sitting in the back. We were, conversing or whatever. And we noticed that her sister was starting to accelerate more than 35 miles an hour, 35, 40, 45. And the girl was dating noticed this first, so she called out to her sister and she's like, "Hey, are you okay? Because, you're going a little fast on these streets that are..." These were kind of windy roads, You gotta take your time with them. So we noticed she kept speeding up. I mean, we were going 50, 55, 55 on a 30. That was pretty excessive. And this all happened, in a split second. We noticed it. We tried to get her attention. She would not respond. You can tell from my view that her arms were just locked in with the steering wheel straight forward. And she was not really turning. She was not, and we were winding around a road. So we started to kind of spew off to the sides of the road, going at 55 miles an hour. We freaked out, and we tried to get her attention again and again and again. Finally, something just snapped within her and made her turn dramatically, swerving the back of the vehicle, going at 55, 60 miles an hour probably. We smacked into a mailbox that was, one of these heavy wooden mailboxes out there. And I know that we did because I saw the mailbox, the wooden thick mailbox, when we smacked into it. We sent it flying probably, I'm assuming 30, 40 feet across. We smacked that so hard, but we still kept swerving. Finally, the car ended up in a ditch. We were all in shock. I remember just feeling under control. Like, I felt really in control of the situation. Like, I know what had happened. We're all freaking out. The sister that's driving is not responding. She's not responding to anything we're saying. At this point, I get out of the car. I grabbed, I told the girl I was dating, said, just stay put. Are you okay? She said, yeah. She was in shock because of the whole thing. We could have flipped over. I mean, we could have seriously flipped over, but we didn't. We ended up in a ditch, and it was pretty bad. So at this point, what comes into my mind is just, I'm going to get out of the car, and I go towards the driver's side. I open up the door, and I said, are you okay? What's going on? I mean, we almost got killed here. Are you okay? And she finally reacted after like a couple minutes, because she was in shock herself. And she's just like, I don't know what just happened. I don't know. And she started freaking out. I put her in the back seat, said, don't worry, we're going to get out of this. And guys, while I was doing all this, when I got out of the car and I started confronting the driver, which was her sister, I felt like this, like the hairs in the back of my neck and in my back just stand up. I'm not even kidding. It was such an ominous, horrendous feeling out there that I couldn't explain. But I took the wheel of this car. I wanted to know if it was still drivable to get out of there. That was my first thought, was just to get out of there. I turned the car on because I think it was off. I turned it on. I was able to put it in reverse. I backed out. Fortunately, I was able to back out of there. And I drove out of that street. I could see that, where we had swerved, and I could see where there was dirt in the road and everything. And I got out of there. My feeling was just to go straight. If that wasn't the street, because I realized it wasn't, that we were supposed to be on. We got out of that street. I saw the stop sign. I went straight through, passing the heavy intersection street that we took, and then we made it to the trailer home. I now recognize where we were. My senses were heightened, and I went to the correct road. It was supposed to be a left, not a right. So as soon as we got out, as soon as we parked on the trailer home and got out, I kid you not, that ominous feeling was still there. It was like, it was so present. I've never felt anything like that. Like someone was watching you, and like somebody or something was letting you know that it was there trying to scare you or something. It was really, really scary, really spooky. And we were all in shock, mostly, the girls, but, I took them out of the car. I said, come on, let's go inside. And, we went up the steps and we knocked, my friend where I was staying in the trailer home opened the door, and he's like, hey, I was like, let us in quick. So we all entered into the home, and, he was like, what happened? I told him the whole story. And get this. This was probably another just peak moment in this paranormal experience that I had. as we were relating the story, we heard footsteps that were... We could hear somebody walk up the steps of the trailer home. Clearly. I mean, as clear as you can hear it. And nobody knocked. Nobody said a word out there. All we heard was somebody in boots. Because it didn't feel like sneakers. It didn't feel like regular shoes. It was clear as daylight to me. It was somebody in boots, no spurs, walking up the stairs that led to the door of the trailer home. There was a mesh door there. They opened up that door, whatever it was. It opened up the door. You could hear the creaking sound of the mesh door. And it just stood there. And just to confirm that I wasn't the only one hearing that, everybody asked what that was or who it was at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, I know that looking back, you could have said, well, it was probably somebody that followed you. It was probably somebody that, that saw the whole thing. Yeah, it could have been. But the strange thing is if somebody saw me and followed me, which I know nobody followed me because it was pitch black out there, I would have seen someone's headlights following me. If somebody did follow me, parked their car behind me later, went up those stairs, and opened up that mesh fence door, why didn't they knock? Why didn't they say anything? Why didn't they say, hey, I'm just concerned, I saw what happened, or hey, I'm the person, that lives in that home that you crashed, that you hit the mailbox in, I'm looking to pursue you. Whatever it was, why didn't they say anything? In so much, it was that we all felt this and heard this, that I turned to my friend, the owner of the trailer home, and I asked him a simple question. I said, what was that? And he was like, I don't know. That was his only answer. I don't know. His wife, could play the piano, so he asked his wife to, maybe play the piano, some songs that might calm us down. And, well, that was it, That was the rest of the story. Now, what concluded after that, I might say that I think I did stay for another day. And I think my flight home, I think we did pay for an extra day. That's a little blurry for me. What stays clear as day is the experience that I had, the paranormal experience. But whether I took the flight home and I stayed the extra day, I think we did, because I remember hearing from the girl that I was dating, her dad, and he was upset that the car was just, I think it got totaled. I think the car got totaled. And I went home, and the reason I think nobody died, thank God. Nobody got hurt, thank God. Was it enough for our premonition to make me stay? Don't think it was. I could have left and everybody would have been okay. Looking back, I don't think the premonition was to stay behind and make sure everyone's okay. It was more for what took place during the time that it happened. Anyway, don't want to make this longer. I appreciate you guys sticking around. It was a crazy story broken up into 3 parts. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know your comments below if you have anything, any insight, or maybe any questions that you may have. Like I said, this was a while back. The main story remains pretty good in detail. There's some things, minor details that might have been a little blurry, but if you have any questions, or if you have any insight into the story, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Please go ahead and like this video if you enjoyed that. I have a couple more stories to tell, and then a couple more things happening in this channel that I may want to do, and maybe I'll make next video just saying what kind of things you guys would like to listen to. If not, then we'll conclude this story, and appreciate you guys listening to me. Once again, thank you for sticking around for Maxwell's Unearthly. You have yourselves